Hmm. Hmm. Okay. We're not going to do this.
Is anyone seeing the host?
Well, hello. Can everybody wave if you can hear me? Great. Hi. So I started the meeting in the other room on my other computer, and it wouldn't recognize the video. So something's gone on. So thank God I've got a second video, and let's see if it is actually. So can you guys see me? You can't see me. Okay, so this is the wonderful joy of computing. Nothing matters. Every story you've ever had doesn't bring you to this moment where everything you long for is here. So let go for just a few precious moments. Relax into this moment. Let go of past, let go of future, and just be here. And watch how your mind will take back over again, and that's okay. You've only lived in your mind for most of your life. And when you see the mind taking over, it's just like a little 2-year-old. I know. But just rest here for this moment. And now, in this quiet place, I want to bring in all the children that died 2 days ago at the school shooting in Florida. And I want to bring in their families, their friends, But I also want to bring in the shooter. So much pain in his life. And all of these people, including the shooter, need our heart. So bring them here. We're big enough. We're awake enough to meet their pain, our pain, and the pain of the world in the vast healing regions of our hearts. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Namaste. So glad we are gathered together today. So I want to do a little overview, because what we are learning is the language of the aware heart. And just like any language, we need to hear it, we need to practice it, we need to study it in order to have access to it. And so we have looked at compulsions in an entirely different way. We've seen them not as something bad and wrong about us, not something that needs to be fixed or gotten rid of, not our enemy, but actually messages from the depth of your being. Not something to be controlled, and we looked at how that doesn't work. In fact, that actually infuels your compulsions, but as something to be connected to. Because as you have discovered, your compulsions will not let go through control. And if you do manage to control one, another one will take its place, because our compulsions are a finely crafted survival system. What are they taking care of? So let's go over that again. So here is a little girl, and she has, her mother has gotten a call when she was in the middle of changing her diaper, and she's 1.5 years old, and she just runs around the room and is just having a great time, and then all of a sudden she pees. And the people in the room go, "No, bad, wrong." And I want you to get the sense of this little girl and what that was like. She didn't do anything. Life just unfolded. And what happens to us, and oh my God, this happened a million times in other ways with our parents, with our siblings, with our friends, that we began to disconnect from our naturalness. I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, potty train a child, but I want you to get this sense how, from this free-flowing aliveness when we were very young, that became this message from life: I need to be different than what I am. And that begins this whole journey away from ourselves, this whole moving into becoming a human doing rather than a human being. Robert Bly, the wonderful poet, and many of you may know that he was a big person in the men's movement in the 80s and the early 90s. And he wrote a book called The Little Book of the Human Shadow. I think that's close enough to the title of it. And what he's describing in there is, here we're born, we're 360-degree balls of radiance. Our energy flowed. I really want you to get the sense of that. Energy danced through us just like it dances through nature. And he says, we hear that this slice of this ball of radiance, that's not okay. And we put it in the bag behind our back. And then this one is not okay. And then this one, our fear is not okay. Oh, don't be a sissy cat. Our tears are not okay. Oh, stop being such a crybaby. Our anger is not okay. Don't be angry with me. Our exuberance is not okay. Our pure joy of life, and that's just a tiny list of all the different parts of ourselves that we began to put in the bag over our shoulder. And Bly says we're left with this little tiny slice of ourselves. And what I add to that, that little tiny slice is always trying to do life and do it right. And this is where compulsions come in. You know, I was thinking this morning that, about that very famous image that Plato came up with, that we all live in a cave with our backs to the mouth of the cave. We are chained to the cave. And behind us is a fire that we see our shadows on the wall of the cave. And we never turn around and realize we're just watching our shadow. We don't turn around and realize that this cave is a tiny part of who we are. And we feel we are chained, but they are only the chains of resistance, the chains of this mind that we crawled into that believes at its core that I need to be different than what I am in order to be okay. So there's so much of ourselves that we have put underneath our everyday awareness. And as you find out, they have a tendency to escape, and come and arise from the depth, our loneliness, our sense of helplessness, our sense of not being enough, our sense of shame, our sense of judgment. Oh my God, we can be so cruel with ourselves. And our sense of fear, and even our sense of anger. And so what compulsions are, is they are an attempt to keep all of this that is unacceptable underneath our everyday awareness. And that only works sometimes. It's like the whack-a-mole, game we talked about, I think in the second class, is that we whack one down and another one, pops up, or we whack one feeling down and another one pops up. What would it be like that you realized that your wholeness comes from using your compulsions as your guide? That whenever your compulsions are there is something inside of you that needs you. So this is why we talked in the second class. In the first class, we talked about shifting your relationship with the compulsions. The second class and the third class, we talked about the skills that allow you to begin to respond to your compulsions rather than react. The first was curiosity. The kind of curiosity that, the questions in The Gift of Our Compulsions, what am I experiencing right now? Not the kind of curiosity that, why is this here and how can this go away? But the actual living curiosity of engaging in your immediate experience. Believe you me, it's been a long, long time since most of us have done that. So we talked about strengthening that muscle of your curiosity, of finding something you focus on, and then not being dismayed at how much you go back into this storyteller in your head, which is always trying to do life. And I call it the bubble of struggle. But even if you sit for 10 minutes and you all of a sudden realize that you have been following your story the whole time, that is so powerful to just bring your attention back in that moment, right here, right now. And so that's the power of curiosity, the power of relating to what is going on inside of you rather than from it. And we talked about how you use your body first. And we have a visitor here. Bodhi has come to hang out with us because I didn't shut the door. I didn't. And so that power beginning to actually be present for yourself and understanding that your compulsions are there when there's something inside of you that has been waiting your whole life for you to say hello. And so then we talked in the third week about working with the aware heart, that is where all lasting healing happens. And I want to read you something from Jeff Foster, who is just a wonderful, wonderful teacher of awakening. And Stephen Levine was his main mentor also. And so both of us really, truly speak from the heart. That's, when I say we're learning the language of the heart. And this is from Jeff. Stop trying to heal yourself, fix yourself, even awaken yourself. Let go of letting go. Stop trying to fast forward your life. It gets so exhausting, doesn't it? To try to always get there, chasing futures that never seem to arrive, living on secondhand promises. Instead, bow deeply to yourself as you actually are. Be here. Honor the present scene of your movie. Your pain, your sorrow, your doubts, your deepest longings, your fearful thoughts are not mistakes. And they aren't asking to be healed. They are asking to be held. Here, now, lightly, in the loving arms of your present awareness. Your doubts, your sorrow, your pain, your deepest longings, your fearful thoughts are asking to be held. They are not asking to be healed. Why is that so powerful? Because it begins to shift us from our mind back into our heart, where all lasting healing happens. Even in awakening, so much of what we do is we try to heal ourselves. But what would it be like if you began to realize that when you are contracted, when you are tight, that there is something within you that is asking to be seen and to be touched by your heart. That it's not asking to be healed. That keeps you in your head. It's asking to be held. So I want to give you a story out of my life that will really bring this all together. And then I want to turn it over and because each of you have different compulsions and different classes that you're hearing. Everybody is hearing a different class. And so I really invite us at the last part of this class to ask questions, to bring your questions about how to work with this in your daily life. So this happened on 9/11. And remember, I had been so deeply compulsive. And it was so painful to be caught in the quicksand of struggle that it just felt like I was going down the tube. And then I was taught how to be curious. What am I experiencing right now? And for this moment, can I let it be here? Can I not hate it, fear it, fix it, change it? Can I really be here with what I'm experiencing? These are the questions from the gift of our compulsions. And the third question is, can I touch this with my heart? So here I was, my compulsion had been really calm for many years, That doesn't mean that it didn't show up. I talked about the chocolate bar last time. You know, this is a deeply, deeply grooved movement inside of us to get away from discomfort, to get away from what we don't know how to be with. So I had shifted my relationship from enemy to ally, from something to be controlled to my teacher. It was something to listen to. And in the times when I wanted to eat more of that chocolate bar, then that was my signal that there's something inside of me needed me. And so the phone started ringing on 9/11, and because I don't watch the television in the morning, and it was friends and clients and family members, and oh my God, there was just so much upset. And then I had a couple of sessions come, and then I led a group. And at 2:00, when that group was done, and I was closing my front door, the last person that had left, it was like a tsunami. It was like this urge to go and eat the grocery store all in one fell swoop. And it was so strong that I was almost hyperventilating. I got to get to the store. I got to get to the store. And I made it all the way into my bedroom where my purse was. I made it all the way out to where the door was that I walked into where my car was. And it wasn't until I got to that door that the question, what's going on? What am I experiencing? What's here right now? All of a sudden, I was curious about my experience. And so immediately the eater said, don't give me any of that awakening crap. We're going to the store. And usually when I say to it, I know, something's going on. We don't feel very well when we take care of ourselves in that way. Usually, because I had created a relationship with this one that overate inside of me, it says, okay, I remember. No, taking care of myself in that way doesn't work. And so it still said, I want to go to the store. But because I had created a relationship with it, that I said, give me 5 minutes on the porch. I went to the porch. I worked with my breath because everything was jangled inside of me. The whole fight or flight system was on. And so I worked with the breath, the long, slow out breaths, and I actually really tightened on the in-breath because, man, the fight or flight system was there. I just wanted to get away from what I was experiencing. And then I would go back to my breath. Oh. And then it began to become clear that there was like this atom bomb that had gone off in my solar plexus and a little bit up into my chest. So all I did was brought my attention there, not to try to stop anything or fix anything or change anything, but to really meet what was going on. Now, I had done this for enough years that I didn't need to stabilize my attention there, like, how big is it? Is it moving around? How deep is it? We ask those kind of questions to actually bring our attention out of the stories, the reactions, so we can actually come and be present for what we are experiencing. And when my attention was there, out of this fiery ball came tears. And it was the grief of a lifetime. And I just cried and cried. But I wasn't lost in the tears. I was bearing witness to them. I was with this grief. Not only my own grief, but the grief for all the children that lost their parents and all the people that lost their lives. And 10 minutes later, all of this energy had moved through. And when I got up and went back into the house and closed the door that I had closed, 12, 13 minutes ago, with this insane tsunami wave of a panic that I had to get to the store in order to eat and eat and eat. Not one of that was there. Why did that happen? Because I had taken care of what my compulsions had been trying to take care of. for my whole life. Now, it's really important to see that this is not the quick fix. This is the way out, although, that we can keep on running away. It's like, here in the Northwest, I used to backpack a lot, and we were trained that when we come across a bear in the woods, you don't run away. If you do, the bear runs after you and mauls you. What you do instead, with great trepidation, is that you turn and you face the bear, and you slowly put your hands above your head and bring your jacket up if you can, so you get really big. You actually stand there with the bear. So this is not the quick fix. It's also the thing that we have been trying to not do our whole life, because we feel like if we are present for our tears, we'll never stop crying. If we're present, the better way to say it is if we feel our tears, we'll never stop crying. If we feel our fear, we will die of fright. This work isn't so much about feeling things as it is about meeting them. This is what Jeff was saying. This stuff doesn't want to be healed. Okay, if I just feel this stuff, then maybe it will go away. No. These parts of ourselves that our compulsions have been trying to take care of our whole life, they want to be held. They want to be seen. So what happened to me for that day was I was running away and the bear was running after me. And then I stopped. I turned. I brought my attention into my body, because that's where we learn this at the beginning. And I was present for the tightness that was the resistance to what I was experiencing. I will tell you, having been a weak-willed ninny for most of my life, that the safest thing you'll ever do is learn the skills of turning towards. To stay in turning away is like having the bear run after you for your whole life. The concept I want you to get more than anything today, in bringing this into your compulsions, is that your natural state is free-flowing aliveness. And you, like all of us, have gotten tight and small, that there is just a small part of you that is acceptable. The rest of you is hidden from your view. What happens is that cuts us off from life. And what we want to do is free up this energy. I think in this class I have said, we're talking about feelings, but really we're talking about bound up energy. And it is our bound up joy. I am here to tell you, being a weak-willed ninny, that the safest thing you'll ever do is turn and meet your fear. To your hopelessness, even to your anger. That doesn't happen overnight. So what we do is we start with small things. That's why I have given you this idea of becoming a tightness detective. That as soon as you notice you are tight, it is a guarantee that you are in this small slice of the pie that Robert Bly talks about. It is a guarantee that you are in your conditioned self. To just relax for a moment is so powerful. But the concept I want you to get is we want to move this held energy that has been stuck inside of us for most of our lives. That's why when somebody says, when I just have a really great crying fit, or I really get angry at somebody else, I feel so much better the next day. You feel better because the energy has moved, but it hasn't moved through you. It just comes back again, because all of these held energies want to be seen. they want to be heard. So using this concept of becoming a tightness detective, but also the concept of how can I move this energy? You can move it when you're really caught. Let's say you've got your head in the refrigerator, or you've just opened a bottle of scotch, or you find yourself at Nordstrom's with 4 credit cards, is to begin to recognize that you're going away from yourself, that in that tightness is a doorway. And so that energy wants to move. Now, at the beginning, mostly the only way you can move it is by physically moving. I know sometimes it's very, very hard. When I was really, really caught and frozen in bed, it was practically impossible to get out of my bed because I was so frozen. But slowly and surely, I learned how to be kind to myself. And I learned that if I could just get up and go to another room, or get up and go take a shower. But as you grow more, you begin to realize that I can move this energy by going outside and taking a walk, or even doing some jumping jacks. So physically moving the energy is a powerful tool to have. And you can do this before your compulsion, really grabs hold of you. You can do it in the middle of a wave of compulsion. You can do it afterwards when the contraction gets even stronger. If you watch carefully, if you get caught in your compulsion again, then the mind says, oh my God, I did it again. What's wrong with me? Oh my God, I did it again. I'll never get free. Oh my God, I did it again. I've got to stop this behavior. I'm going to throw all the alcohol out. I'm going to wash it down the drain, or I'm going to, take everything out of my cupboards and put it and I'm going to go to the garbage at the grocery store because I can't put it in my garbage can, because the next day I can go and get it out of the garbage can. That's how crazy our compulsions are. Even then, rather than getting caught in contraction, you can see that you are becoming tight. And just to ask yourself, how can I move this? So physically moving is so powerful, but ultimately what we're exploring, that how we heal what has been bound up inside of us, is through our attention. Through having our mind, our body, and our heart all in the same place at the same time. Yes, it takes time to learn how to do this. It's like if you had spoken Russian your whole life and you came to live in the United States and you started learning English, and it was just so alien to you. You had to practice it. You had to study it. And then one day you found that you could speak it more and more clearly. You could actually be understood, and other people could understand you. And then you come to a place where you're actually beginning to think in English rather than think in Russian. So it is a language that we are learning, but it is a language of turning towards and of meeting ourselves in our own hearts. So let's see what questions you have now, because this is the time to ask about, this is what happens to me with my compulsion. And do you have any insight of how I can be with this? Or do you have any questions about just the practicality of what I have been offering you? So let's begin by going down to the chat. Now remember, there's only 2 ways now. You can raise your hand by clicking on the participants button, and then a little white screen will come up on the right-hand side. And then you can click on the little golden hand. Usually it's in the middle of that screen. And that way you can actually speak. Or you can click on the chat button and write your questions. So let's see what is cooking inside of you. Oh, before we do that, I want to say one other thing. We are here for the skills of healing and being healed by our compulsions. Of course we are. But even greater than that, we are here for that shooter in the school shooting a couple of days ago in Florida. We are here for all the families that sent their children off to school that morning, never to return. We are here because most of humanity is caught in a war inside of themselves. If you doubt that, watch what happens around your compulsions. Watch the fear, watch the despair, watch the anger, watch the judgment that surrounds your compulsions. So if you find yourself, oh, well, maybe I'll, start looking at this way of being with my compulsions later on, I invite you to know that as you begin to be present for what is going on inside of you when you're caught in struggle, and that's why compulsions are our teachers, because they won't be healed through control, and yet they show us our brand of struggle. That when you can be present, when you can begin to investigate, when you can begin to meet all the parts of you that have been put out of your heart, you become a part of the healing of our planet. It may not in this moment make a lot of difference in those families that are waking up to empty bedrooms every day. But this is not the quick fix. And I invite you to comprehend which drop of water in creating the oceans was not essential in making our oceans. Which drop of spaciousness, which drop of curiosity when you are caught in struggle, which drop of opening your heart to a part of you that has been closed your whole life, which drop is not important in the healing of our planet. In my world, what is happening on our planet is that all of this stuff that is underneath is coming to the surface. And this is why I feel Donald Trump is such a perfect president right now, because he represents this old kind of mind that divides, that is dualistic, that fights and struggles with what is, that feels that it is right and others are wrong. Can you heal this inside of you? And can you allow your compulsions to be your guide? They are not here because you've done something wrong. They are not here because you are a weak-willed ninny. They are messages from the depths of your being saying you can become free again. You can remember, you can reconnect with who you truly are, which is the vast space out of which all of this is happening. May you use your compulsions to make you fascinated by how tight you get, about how much you resist and react. And may you use this class to help you to see you're not the only one, that we're all caught in a bubble of struggle at some level. And now, even if you just take the idea that your compulsions are not the enemy, they're not proof that you're bad and wrong, even if that's all you take out of this class, that is a part of a healing that our planet so deeply is ready for. So let's see what is going on. So, Viveki, no she, that's all I got. No, you? No, okay. Karen, do you feel that this practice can fit with all types of religious practices? Wow, what a powerful question. Mostly religious practices are ways that we have been trained to work with life, okay? This is way beyond any religious practice. This is using your mind to not so much try to understand life and be the right way in life as it is learning the art of showing up for your life. So this doesn't deny your religious practices. It doesn't stop them. It's what we talked about, I think, in the second class. We are not managing management. What we are doing is adding engagement, a little bit here and a little bit there. And that engagement, the ability to be present for what we are experiencing right here, right now, is the way out of the bubble of struggle. So, Karen, does that answer that question? Good. Thank you, Karen. So, we have a few questions from emails also, and the rest of you, this is our last time together, but a couple of you have already signed up to go through this again. It's a good place to stay close to this language. So, but I want to talk a little bit about the end of how you can keep this fresh in your life. So, this is Nancy. I may not be able to join you today. I would very much like to hear what I thought you said last week, the difference between a painful and an abusive relationship. Well, all relationships bring up pain. We've been sold this bill of goods that we are going to ride off into the sunset with our soulmate. And oh my God, I mean, it's just, that idea fuels so many dating sites, and it fuels, so much plastic surgery and makeup and, really fancy cars and so on and so forth. So we have this longing, and I will send to you the link to the radio show. I finally got it done, the radio show on relationships, and I will send that to you in the final email. But most relationships, well, all relationships are really designed to bring up this hidden pain inside of us. Now, there is a fine line between relationships that are painful and relationships that are abusive. So, abusive, in my world, abusive is hitting, verbal abuse, putting you down, or emotional abuse, really lessening your view of yourself. So to me, a really important guideline is, can you be real in this relationship? Can you, at least when the chaos moves through, can you both sit down and just speak what's going on inside of you? That's hard to come by. That's why in the show that I'll send you, it's learning the art to speak the truth to yourself. So staying with relationships can be very powerful, because usually who you draw into your life is the person that is designed to bring up what is yet unhealed inside of you. But relationships can also be very compulsive. And I think Nanny spoke last week about, how this person that she's in relationship basically says one thing and does another thing. That's crazy making, and so if there is verbal, mental, or emotional abuse, really ask yourself, why is it that I'm staying in this relationship? What is it that I'm getting out of this relationship? I have worked with people that have stayed in very challenging relationships and have grown immensely, only to eventually grow out of that relationship. I've also worked with people that have been in difficult relationships where they have grown immensely, and that begins to shift the other person. And then truth begins to be able to be expressed in that relationship. But if there is abuse, then ask yourself, why am I staying there? So this is from Kelly. Today I was reading the balloon breath exercise, it's in the Gift Our Compulsions. And again, we're talking about opening what has been closed. We're talking about freeing up all the energy that has been bound up inside of us. And so in the Gift of Our Compulsions, there's this wonderful breath where you imagine a balloon inside of you. And you imagine breathing it down. It's a pear-shaped balloon, so the bottom of the balloon is in your belly. And you imagine drawing your breath in and allowing that balloon to begin to expand. And at first in the belly, and then in the middle part of your chest, and a little bit above your chest. And then you let it all go. You don't collapse. You let it all go on the out breath. And then you again breathe in, allowing the belly to open, then the middle part of the body, and then the upper part, just a little bit. This is so powerful because you are opening what has been closed from the inside with your own breath. Now, it can be too scary to do that at times. There is just so much layering around what we have held deeply inside. So if there is some place inside of you that is really holding, let's say it's the fist in your solar plexus, and what you do is you begin to just imagine a little tiny balloon right behind where that energy is held in your body, and then you very gently begin to caress from the inside what is tight, what is scared inside of you. Oh, you absolutely trust that if that holding says don't do that, you don't do that. Force only stops this opening of healing that we are talking about, this opening where what is bound up inside of us is opened again so that we can re-enter the flow of life. So she goes on to say, I said in the book that this breath opens the tightness of reaction that usually surrounds the tension in our bodies. And yes, there are layers upon layers upon layers of resistance. And believe you me, I speak about that from, the living experience of it. But I also know that around any deep holding, and this is why we worked with your body, I think in the second class, that if you have an area that is really tight, let's say it's your shoulder, or maybe it's your neck, or maybe you just have a constant almost lump in your throat, or maybe it's an ache in your back, or this fist in your solar plexus, to begin to gently breathe into it, touching it, caressing it, inviting it to open. All those layers of resistance around meeting what is tightly held there can fall away. And then you can meet, like I met the grief on the porch on 9/11. I didn't know it was grief when I sat down. All I knew, it was a really uncomfortable feeling in my stomach area and a little bit above. And so I breathed into it. I brought my attention there because of my breath. And slowly and surely, the bound up energy inside of that fiery ball was released. And I didn't need my compulsions. So, Kelly, if that doesn't completely answer your question, let me know. Okay. So we did that one. We did that one. Okay. So a while back you spoke briefly, this is from Susie. A while back you spoke briefly about your experience of not including yourself. If possible, can you talk about this? In a way, that's what we're talking about. Totally. Is that you go back to, I wish I could remember his name, the shooter. And they are sharing a lot more about his life. I mean, a foster child and then adopted and then a lot of abuse. I think they had 30 different domestic violence calls at that house. And then his adopted mother died last November, and he's a little bit of a weird kid. So he was teased at school, he was bullied at school, and then after his mother died, he was homeless, and so a family took him in. He was so very far away from himself. I want you to really get that sense that there was so much pain inside of him that he didn't know how to be with because nobody had been with him. That the only thing that made sense, the only thing that would calm down this pain in his mind was if he killed all these people that were hurting him. That's an extreme example, but we all don't include ourselves. And if you're really interested in that, I've written the 3 blogs. I'm taking 2 weeks off now. And so I write my blogs beforehand, and on one of the weeks, there is this blog about kindness that we hear so much about the power of kindness. And yet we rarely ever hear about being kind with ourselves. So when we are hurting, what do? We leave ourselves when we most need ourselves. We go off into reaction, and then we go off into our compulsions. What this work is about including ourselves, about beginning to come back and care for ourselves, to begin to even notice that we're hurting, rather than just going straight to the numbing of our compulsions. And yes, it takes time to develop this ability to actually turn towards and be with ourselves, and just, don't be dismayed. It was just like a child learning how to walk. A child had to develop their muscles of their legs in order to stand up on their own and then walk and run. We are doing something very radical here. If I haven't said this before, in fact, I probably have in this class, what we are exploring here is as important as life came out of the sea and onto the land. This earth is an evolving process. And for the first time, evolution is happening inside of the human mind. And this is the art of actually beginning to meet ourselves so that we can meet others in our hearts. That is what is going to heal our world. One of the times I was with Stephen Levine, and there were 600 people and in that room, and he asked us if we could open our hearts to Hitler. And believe you me, it was just this, the whole room just got instantly cold and tight. And then he talked us through this. And for most of us, it wasn't until he got us back to when Hitler was a baby that we could open our hearts to Hitler. And he said, who needs our hearts more than somebody like Hitler, or now the terrorists, or Kim Jong-un? How do we learn how to live not from our reactive mind, but from our spacious, open, including, aware heart. We do it by learning how to do this inside of ourselves, to include ourselves, to see how much when we are hurting, we turn away. Or as Stephen would say, when we most need ourselves, we turn away. Oh, if all you get is that turning towards is the safest thing you ever will do, I've done my job. But you do have to learn this language. And so keep it forefront. If you have any of my books, just open one randomly every day. Just let life speak to you. I do posts every day on Facebook. My radio show, which you can get through to my website, it has thousands of previous shows. Not thousands. Wow. It has thousands of people listening to it now, but it has dozens of previous shows. And so you can hear this message. You can download it. You can listen in your car on your way to work. I've got somebody that listens every night. She says, I now sleep with you, Mary. I go to bed with you every night, And so keep this close. If you really want to open your heart, hang out with Jeff Foster. If Adyashanti is, he's not so much a heart person, although it's all the way through his work. It really is. He's better than anybody I know to help you see that you are not this bubble of struggle in your head. And of course, if you want to do the course again, as you can tell, it just kind of rolls through me. So who knows what's going to show up the next time? It will still probably be the basic skills. But if you are so inclined, I'll send a link out for you. And then I have a phone group and I do Skype counseling and all of that. And if you're so inclined, you've really got to dive in deep. If you're ready to dive in deep, hang out with Stephen Levine's books, Healing into Life and Death, and Who Dies. Now, Stephen teaches about conscious living, conscious dying. So many people don't really open to what he has to offer because they're afraid of death. What he talks about really is how to be alive. And there's nobody clearer on this planet that really, he said, I've learned this from thousands of people on their deathbeds, how we live our lives in this bubble of struggle. It cuts us off from life so that we can get to the end of our life and say, what is it all about? Or we can begin to wake up. We can begin to realize that living in the now, we have a romanticized versions of it. Oh, I'm going to live in the now. Living in the now means being open to the 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows. It's being open to it all. And if you allow your compulsive one to be your teacher, to show you what is asking for your own accepting attention, your compulsion will become your doorway back into the joy of being fully alive. So thank you all. I just am so appreciated that we get to explore this together. And may we end by seeing the earth in our mind's eye and just see all these people all over the planet. They've been gathered together for an hour every week and see that lights are going on. See that there are people more and more discovering how to unhook from our addiction to struggle so we can be present for life, all of it, and thus be a healing presence in the world. Thank you so much, and namaste. Ah. Mwah. 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 I hope our paths cross again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.